Hello beautiful people, welcome to my Wild Hearthstone channel. Today I bring you Vicious Syndicate Data Reaper Report number 5 for Wild Mode. Um, in case you don't know, Vicious Syndicate is a website that collects data from games and then aggregates that data, produces reports and visualizations for the community to use. Before I start, I want to say thank you to Vicious Syndicate for allowing me the use of their graphics in my videos, and also the tremendous work that they have been done by making data available to the community. So, to start with, I want to talk about class frequency, and I want to um, discuss this for two main reasons. The first one is that there's a clear distinction between the overall meta and then the meta from 5 to Legend. The reason is, I hope, clear enough. Players take the game a lot more seriously in the high ranks, but at the same time, it's important to note, and if my math didn't fail me completely, that 5 rank, or better said, rank 5 to Legend, makes up for 12% of all the games that were captured by Vicious Syndicate. So uh, for this reason, but also because I tend to climb up to rank 10 and then stay thereabout and play wacky decks or casual or just try different things. I'm not really the best person to discuss what happens in the high stakes of Hearthstone, especially in Wild or also in Wild. So all of my analysis, this one and the ones that I want to do in the future, will focus in the overall all ranks data. Okay, so if we look at all ranks and we compare October 2017 with November, the current report, what we see is a drop in Hunter, a climb in Warlock, a climb also in Druid, and then a weird drop, let me add, in Paladin. If we look at, I created this graphic to give a better idea that Warlock was the class that increased the most. It's important to note that the biggest increase was 1.68%. So although it's the biggest increase, it's not that much of a difference. But it's important to note that this increase in Warlock and also the increase in Druid were at with the help of certain archetypes, namely Zulok for Warlock and Agro Token Druid for Druid. Some things that are not that obvious is that there were drops in classes that had increases in their best archetypes. For instance, Paladin and Rogue. Paladin does have Recruit Paladin, which is currently the best archetype in the meta, and although that archetype grew, the class dropped. Same applies to Rogue, where Tempo Rogue, the strongest archetype for Rogue, had an increase, but then the overall class had a decrease. And then there's some odd things going on. For instance, Agro Shaman, very strong aggressive archetype, and Pirate Warrior, which is a very, very strong archetype at the moment, both dropped. Mage, that doesn't really have like a major archetype at the moment, grew a little bit. And then Hunter, that dropped considerably, with Death Rattle Hunter almost disappearing, and Giants Hunter appearing, but more strange to me the fact that mid-range Hunter has seen some growth, where as an archetype it doesn't have that much of results to show. And this leaves us with the archetype analysis, and these are the tier 1 decks. So way up there on top, it's Recruit Paladin and Pirate Warrior, both of them showing a win rate above 55%, which is something that I don't really like to see on any meta, not just the Wild one. To me, it's a concern when when I see an archetype over 55%. And then a number of aggressive decks and mid-range tempo decks, and then Reno Priest, which is pretty much the meta-defining deck at the moment. In Tier 2, we have one and one deck only, which is Giant Hunter. So this deck, it's really the only deck that exists between 50 and 52%, which I personally like to see a group of decks here like trying to counter the upper tier over time, depending on what those decks can do. And as the meta shifts, then those decks either go up or down, and things continuously readjust. One last deck, and I don't expect to look at tier 3 decks because those would be too many decks to look at, but I decided this time to put Tempo Mage here for only one reason, which is it's pretty much 50%, and although technically, according to the thresholds that Vicious Syndicate defined, this deck is in fact a tier 3 deck when we compare it with the previous report, and we'll get there in a bit. We should take this deck into consideration. One last word. It's, if I'm not mistaken, the second time that Secret Paladin appears as a deck that Vicious Syndicate doesn't have enough data to add it to the report, so it's rather inconclusive, but they do say that this deck should be a tier 1 deck. So keep in mind Secret Paladin, it barely appears. I think I have played half a dozen times in the last couple of months with the Secret Paladins, but they are around and they are a pretty good deck. If we compare the current tier lists with the ones from last month, I kind of liked the last month one a lot more. The top decks were, none of them was above 55%. There were 8 tier 1 decks, 4 tier 2 decks, and upon a better examination, we see which were the decks that grew, and the decks that grew in terms of power level and win rate were Recruit Paladin, Pirate Warrior, and Zulok. And if we look at the big winners here are definitely Recruit Paladin, which is the best deck by far at the moment, but with a very low frequency of play, and then Pirate Warrior. And there are like the middle decks, the ones that don't have much of a change, and this graphic is the reason why I decided to add Tempo Mage, because it's just, it's there, doesn't have much of a change. Giant Hunter staying pretty much in the same place, same thing for Reno Priest and also for Agro Shaman. Agro Shaman is interesting because Agro Shaman has a very slight growth in win rate, but with the increase in win rate from Pirate Warrior and Recruit Paladin, it actually drops places, which is interesting to say the least. Last but not least, the losers, let's say, in terms of archetypes. Aggro Token Druid, which surprised me in a way. I've tried to play this deck sometimes because it's a deck that I don't play that well or that know well, and I found that it's a relatively strong deck. I was not expecting this drop. I was not expecting the drop in Tempo Rogue. And then Token Shaman, Big Priest, and Reno Mage pretty much just disappeared from the top tier lists and lie somewhere in the middle to low tier 3. So, with this said, what are the conclusions? Well, there are 3 of them. There's one deck and one deck only that defines the meta due to its frequency and to its power, and that is Reno Priest. There are many variants. Some of them are more control oriented, some are more combo oriented. But Shadow Reaper Anduin pretty much defines the meta. You either play this deck or you're trying to beat it. Maybe the only deck that is on a power level of its own is Recruit Paladin. And Recruit Paladin doesn't really care that much about Shadow Reaper Anduin, but since it's not that frequent in a meta, it is not as close as meta defining as Reno Priest. And last but not least, the story of Pirate Warrior. And Pirate Warrior, it's interesting when I decided to make this YouTube channel. The first thing, some days later, it was announced the nerf to Fiery War X, and at the time I decided to make some videos comparing the pre and post nerf of Pirate Warrior. And one of the things that I decided to do at the time was to do two climbs on the ladder up to rank 10 with Pirate Warrior, one before the nerf and one after the nerf. I recorded some videos, and it became really clear to me that Pirate Warrior wasn't as bad as people expected to be post nerf. This is the overall conclusion. Pirate Warrior is much better than a lot of people said that it would be after the nerf, at least in Wild. It has a lot more tools in Wild. And I'll share with you in the future. The videos are made, I just need to edit them, so sorry. But I will share with you in the future what I found and what my experience was doing those two climbs. One while Fiery War X costed 2 mana, and one in the month after the nerf, with the exact same deck list. Okay, so this was my review of the Wild Battle Reaper report number 5 from Vicious Syndicate. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you like the insights. This is one thing that I want to do in the future, like 1 day or 2 days after Vicious Syndicate releases the Wild reports, that I'll do a video about it. Just let me know, reach out, what are the things. This is something that I'm trying to find out how I'm going to do. Let me know your thoughts, what would be interesting to understand from the report, and I'll do my best to let you know. Till then, bye bye.